Good afternoon and welcome to the Financial Optimist. And today I'm going to share with you my next chapter on my journey to live on less than $1,000 per month. Now, for comparison purposes, I do live in the United States, which is currently ranked as the 13th most expensive country on the planet, and I also live in the state of Florida. Unlike many voices online who seem to live in the state of despair, here at the Financial Optimist, we are optimistic about our finances, and I want you to be optimistic too. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. So when it comes to my first category, pets. I got myself a pet a month ago, and now it's starting to cost me some money. Got some toys, got some food, and it was this little guy right here. There we go. There we are. Good boy. And it's $47.01 is what I spent on this little guy for the entire month. And so he's, so overall not been too expensive so far, but he's been absolutely adorable. Totally worth it. Next category, utilities. For my water bill, it was $66.66, which is about the same as it's been for the past several months. Around $65 a month is what I pay. It's been very consistent. Utilities, again, very consistent, $30 a month. That's the nice thing about living alone as a household of one is I can get the basic internet plan. Works fine for me. I don't have to get the upgraded plan for internet. Electricity, though, this is a good budget because I actually saved money here. Normally, over the summer, I'm spending around $150, $160 a month on electricity because of the air conditioner. But the last few months, the air conditioning hasn't been running all the time. So I only spent about $110 on electricity this month. So it's definitely down from previous months, which means our grand total utilities for the whole month was $207.39. This is so far one of my cheapest months for utilities, and the past has been around $250, $260 a month for my total utilities, but because the electric bill is down, I'm saving some money. Next, the food budget. Groceries, I spent $148.94, and obviously that's not a lot of food, but mind you, I also do try to go to some of the more budget-friendly grocery stores. I do also do lots of meal planning, kind of planning out certain types of meals that are cheaper than others to save money that way. So you can save money at the grocery store if you really want to do that. Next, restaurants. I spent a total of $97.81 on restaurants. I went out to eat at a mid-range restaurant 7 times, averaging $13.97 per meal, with my cheapest meal being $9.49, my most expensive meal being $19.98. Now, when I go to a mid-range restaurant, my goal is to spend between $10 and $20 for the entire meal. I don't like to spend more than $20 a meal, that's too much, but if I'm going to a mid-range restaurant, I'll spend at least $10 because I want to get myself something nice for that meal. So overall, restaurants don't have to be expensive. You can get great food for not a lot of money. Next, fast food, $41.33. I went to fast food 7 times this month, averaging $5.90 per meal. My cheapest fast food meal was $4.28, and my most expensive fast food meal was $7.15. That's because I don't like to spend more than $10 at a fast food restaurant. If I'm going to fast food, it's got to be cheap, $5, $6, and then, it doesn't have to be a big meal, just a little something. And that's what I do with fast food, under $10, mid-range restaurants over $10, and typically no more than $20 for a single meal. So when it comes to my food budget, $149 on groceries, about $98 on restaurants, $41 on fast food, comes to $288.08 for food for the entire month. Now you might be asking, how do you get by on less than $300 for food for the entire month? Well, you'll notice that I'm not fat. The more you eat, the more you spend on food. So if you're someone that's overweight and you buy a lot of food, you also spend some money. In my case, I eat a moderate amount of food and I pay a moderate amount of money for that food. So if you control how much you eat, you can save considerable sums of money. So if you're wanting to save some money in the grocery budget, try losing weight. It could save you a lot of money. All right, next, the medical budget. $11.80. This is like doctor's appointments, prescriptions, medical supplies, that kind of stuff. I spent almost nothing this month. Why? Because in addition to eating less food and saving money in the grocery budget, I also exercise multiple times a week and keep myself healthy. If you're healthy, you can lower the medical budget substantially. And so that's another thing is if you're someone that's overweight and never exercises, you're going to spend more on food and medical. But if you take care of your health and you live a healthy lifestyle, you can save tremendous amounts of money. Next, entertainment, $109.26. Overall, this is up from previous months, but overall, I don't think it's that much. $100 a month entertainment is actually quite affordable. What did I do? I hung out with some friends a few times this month, went to the bowling alley, the arcade, bought some board games, that kind of stuff. Yeah, it added up to about $100, which overall isn't that much. And entertainment is definitely important for your psychological health. Spending time with friends, hanging out with people, you definitely want to do that. So I would argue this is a necessary expense, not an unnecessary expense, so long as you keep it reasonable. All right, so next, fuel. $82.83 on fuel for the entire month. I went to the gas station 4 times, averaging $20.71 per fill-up. So overall, not too bad. That's about the same as it's been in previous months. And other. These are just miscellaneous expenses that didn't have a category, $152.39. Like, for example, it's kind of cold this month. Bought myself a couple of space heaters I can plug in to help warm up the house a little bit better. It's a random odds and ends like that. And that's what I got for that category. And lastly, refunds. I did return a couple of items this month, and I got back $48.04. which means I will be subtracting that from the total expenses for the entire month. So to recap, for my pet, I spent $47.01. For my utilities, $207.39. For food, $288.08. For medical, about $12. Entertainment, $109. Fuel, about $83. Other, $152. And refunds, I got back $48. So all in all, my total expenses for the whole months were $850.72. So did I meet my goal of living on less than $1,000 per month? Absolutely yes. And I even had a little bit to spare. And so that's what I've been documenting here. My journey of the financial optimist is how to live on $1,000 less or less every single month. Last month I was a little over $1,000, but every other month of this year I've been under $1,000 since I started tracking it for the purposes of this channel. So very, very affordable. It is possible to live on $1,000 a month in the US. Now, you might be asking, hang on a minute, you're missing a few categories in here. Like, surely you're leaving some things off. For example, what about, your housing expense? Well, me, I don't have a mortgage. I don't pay rent. This house, I have it fully paid off. I own this house 100%. So I have no housing expenses on a monthly basis. So that's my biggest single line item expense I've saved is $0 per month. Most people spend $2,000 a month on rent or mortgage. And that's one of the things I do here at the Financial Optimist. I show you how it's possible to pay cash for a house and never need a bank, never need a mortgage. It absolutely is possible. I've done it and I show you how to do it on many of my other videos. So nextly here, what about debts, credit cards, student loans, car notes? Again, $0 a month. That's because I live the debt-free lifestyle, not just for the house, but for everything. I've never borrowed a single penny of money in my entire life, and I never will. If I don't have the money for something, I just don't buy it. If I want to make a major purchase, I save up for it first, I buy it later. That way I have no monthly payments, I'm not paying interest, and my monthly bills are very, very low. Next, what about car insurance? Well, if you recall from last month's video in October, I prepaid my car insurance for the next 6 months, which means for this month I have no car insurance bill because I paid it last month. And it averages out to about $53 per month, which is overall very affordable, especially seeing as I'm in Florida, which is notoriously very expensive car insurance. But because I prepay it once every 6 months, that means I have 10 months of the year I have no car insurance bill. What about phone bill? Same deal. I pay it once a year, so 11 months of the year, no phone bill, and then 1 month a year I have a very large phone bill. By paying in advance, I save tons and tons of money. And next, well, subscriptions. Again, $0. I don't have any subscriptions. I try to avoid them as much as I can because subscriptions are a parasitic expense that drain your bank account and they don't really bring much value to your life. So I don't subscribe to anything. Unless, of course, you want to subscribe to this channel, absolutely subscribe to that, but it's free. It costs you nothing. Other than that, these are some of the tips and tricks I use to save money. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comment section. I love to answer them. Otherwise, I do have one more bonus slide. This month, being November, there were a lot of Black Friday specials, so I decided to indulge in some of my hobbies, spending $2,322.88, which was almost triple my normal budget for just ordinary expenses. I spent quite a bit more on non-necessary expenses than I did on actual necessary ones. And ironically, many people's budgets are organized that way, but they seem to think everything's necessary. For me, I recognized this was completely optional. I didn't have to spend this money. It was just, investing in some of my hobbies, things I like to buy, and, that's fine. Obviously, everyone has to have their hobbies. This month is probably going to be my most expensive hobbies month for the entire year because of the Black Friday specials. And then in the future, it'll likely be quite a bit less than this for future months. For December, I'll probably spend over $1,000 on my hobbies there, but going to January, I'll probably come back down to $0 again. And, that's something I like to spend some money on, but again, it's something where if I ever lost my job, I could just cut this out because I don't need to spend this. This is purely optional. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.